We're back once again, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Capital City Podcast. I'm your host, Capital J, alongside my main man,
DL Glass.
And you know, we do a lot of talking and thinking and thinking and talking.
Whew.
And one of the things that we've been talking about lately is the importance of having a father around. And if it's not a father, it's a father figure.
Right.
And what we've been seeing in hip hop, the direction things have been going, look like a whole lot of people don't have fatherly influence around.
Mm-hmm.
And this is not a new phenomenon, you know, but it starts where?
In the beginning.
In the beginning.
Right.
Hip hop, a lot of the early hip hoppers, a lot of them had fatherly influence and father figures around. Mm-hmm. And when I say father figure, I want you to think in terms of outside of the family structure. A father figure is an adult male that can tell you when you're wrong.
Right.
End of story. So the early days of hip hop, here we are celebrating 50 years. If you go back, the people who started doing this had more father figures around than people 30 years in. I'm not going to go all the way to today.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of that starts with the war on drugs.
I can't say it.
Hey, we got an open floor.
I ain't gonna say it.
You know what I'm saying? I don't censor nobody. But the war on drugs during the late 80s, early 90s removed a lot of fathers. We witnessed the era where a lot of people who had been able to get away with dabbling in cocaine usage found themselves dealing with an animal called crack that you couldn't dabble in.
Right.
And go on back to your regular self. It was too much.
Mm-hmm.
And overnight, something they had been managing for years took control of them.
Peace.
How low can you go? Took a lot of fathers off the street.
Absolutely.
And then the next few years after the people got caught out there smoking it, we took another wave of people off, locking them up for selling it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what that did to the streets, if you were not affected directly in your household by losing your father to this game, you lost your father figures in the streets.
Absolutely.
People old enough to go to jail and do big time for dabbling in this drug game. Now, what did that do to the streets? Well, first of all, the early days of hip-hop, they didn't have to deal with this epidemic. So the first wave of rappers that really make a name, they didn't grow up with fathers that smoke crack.
Right.
They didn't grow up with fathers that sold crack.
Mm-hmm.
And in the very beginning, there weren't drug dealers making records.
Right.
So as this plague advanced through the community, you know, you hear a lot of people in the streets, they talk about how this affected the gang life, for example. When younger gang members would get out of control and start doing things that were too far left or right, then the OGs would step in. Didn't have to be your daddy, but in the streets, the OG is the father figure.
Right.
And they could step in and say, hey, young buck, we don't shoot into houses because you might hit somebody's wife or their kids.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, young buck, there's certain things that we don't do. You don't rob old women.
Right.
You know, and it's not always just for the morality of the situation. Sometimes it's just to keep the peace so that business can go on as usual.
Right. Start the block from being hot.
Right. Mm-hmm. How does this translate into hip hop? Well, that same line of thinking that stopped major beefs from happening by not going too far has also been lost in the hip hop game.
Right.
People going too far.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, disrespecting their rivals by urinating on graves in videos.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's clearly an absence of a father figure to say, hey, dude's already dead. First of all, for the sake of business,
Right.
don't brag. Like, okay, you got him back. He killed your boy. Y'all killed him. Don't brag about it.
Mm-hmm.
That'll get you put in jail. Second, don't disrespect his memory. That's gonna make that whole crew who didn't have any reason, you know, they were like, hey, this is beef and we're angry about it, but there are consequences behind starting a war.
Right.
The more disrespectful you are, the more likely you are to start a huge war. And we started seeing the results of, you know, the kids without fathers start showing up in the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
And we got a whole East Coast, West Coast beef out of it.
Right.
I can imagine that if Tupac had a father around, at some point he would have learned how much trouble you're going to start when you say you had sex with another man's wife at the beginning of a track.
Right.
But you know, he didn't have that.
Right. He wanted to take it there.
He wanted to take it there.
Right.
It's a man that grew up with his mother.
Mm-hmm.
And we know, you know, no disrespect to women, because this raising a family takes men and women together.
Right.
But we balance each other out.
Mm-hmm.
It's the woman that tell you, hey, you feel this way, well then go up there and speak your mind.
Right.
The man says, hey, going up there and speak your mind is going to cause this to happen, this to happen, and this to happen.
Right.
Is you speaking your mind worth the trouble it's going to cause?
Right.
At the end of the day.
Right.
So we start seeing signs of lack of fatherly advice and what it did to hip hop early on.
Mm-hmm.
And as time has progressed, we've gotten farther and farther away.
A lot worse.
Right.
Yeah. Because today, I don't think Tupac would have lasted as long as he did. Just because of
in today's climate,
his antics.
Well, I mean, shoot, he lasted as long as anybody would last today. Really.
Yeah.
I mean, what was he, 27?
I think he was 26, yeah.
26, 27?
Right.
He said that rhyme not a year before he got shot.
Yeah. Well, before he got killed, because he had been shot a couple times.
Right. But yeah. I don't think that was particularly due to beef. That was just a horrible coincidence.
Well, the time he got shot up in the elevator.
When he got shot up in the elevator, that's something that
was
you know,
beef.
I don't think that was beef.
Yeah, with
that was
the crew in New York. I forgot old buddy's name.
Hey man, I think it could have been. I think those dudes sitting around could have got anybody that showed up. You know, that was one of those cases where he didn't get. I don't think he got because he was Tupac. He got because he wasn't somebody who was under the protection of them dudes that was standing out there waiting to gank people when they showed up.
Yeah, I forgot old buddy's name, man. That it was revealed.
Was it Henchman?
Yeah, Jimmy Henchman.
Jimmy Henchman?
Yeah.
Right.
They had some underlying beef stuff going on.
So the word is that it really was some beef behind it.
Yes, absolutely. And he chose to come at Biggie about it versus who really did it. Like they said, Tupac always knew who shot him up, but he would rather throw it at Biggie.
Well,
yeah.
Well,
that's crazy, right? That's some shit.
Hey, what you saw, you saw go on after that was something that the game hadn't seen before.
No way.
Because, and we all know that Tupac is a person that could not be reasoned with. When he made up his mind about doing whatever he was going to do, nobody could tell him different.
Right. Right.
There was, and when he did find a father figure, it wasn't anybody who was going to direct him away from that kind of trouble. It was Suge Knight. Suge Knight was somebody who could have squashed the beef or made it worse.
Right, and he did.
That's the importance of an OG. He was a true OG. Unfortunately, he was under the direction of the wrong OG.
Right, right.
But a proper father figure could have stopped all of that from happening.
Right.
He's like, like suppose he had a dad that he was close to. He made that record and let his dad hear it.
Right.
I'm almost sure if that man had good sense,
right,
he would say, son, this is too much. Not only did you go at this man, you just talked about having sex with this man's wife. You also just went in on a dude about sickle cell, about having sickle cell. I mean, think about this. Think about what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like all of that was just so emotional and over the top.
Right.
That a wise man.
Yeah, a positive.
A positive, wise individual.
Right.
With proper input. Would have pulled him aside and said, this is going to be a problem. You're saying the kind of stuff that once you say it,
right,
can't put that toothpaste back in the tube.
Right. That's crazy.
This is going to cause somebody to want to hurt you, maybe somebody in your family, and we didn't have that.
Right.
Speaking of early influences, manly influence has changed the things that the hip-hop culture values. Like, for example, being a little bit older, I was raised that, men kind of wore gold, women were into diamonds. Diamonds are a girl's best friend.
Uh-oh.
As we went through.
I didn't think you was going back there.
Yeah, I'm going back there. As we went through time, if you're raised without fathers around, and by the influence of a lot of mothers, you value what they value.
Right.
Diamonds. Hip-hop became, diamonds became the thing to have. Not gold. I remember in the early days when hip-hop first started, a big fat gold rope cost a certain amount, but I can remember the value of gold going down so far that you could get a 10-carat nugget ring for like $25. So that in itself says, hey man, we've taken the value off the things that men hold dear, we placed it in the things that the woman holds dear. Listen to some of the things that like I don't ever hear Biggie talking about his mother and his father in any of his rhymes, right?
The only thing he said was basically that he wasn't there.
Right.
Yeah, it's basically.
Jay-Z
talks about his dad. He went to the funeral, but he didn't care.
No real relationship, right?
Yeah, none. Yeah.
And what this man do when he get upset with Nas?
Yeah, came at his throat.
Talking about condoms in your baby seat.
Right.
Nas on the flip side. Just listen to the content of the way they dissed each other. Nas kept it strictly about Jay-Z.
Right.
Nas had a father in his life. And he knew that he was still spitting that fire in this beef. And to a lot of people, he won the beef. But he didn't take it any place that a wise man would have told him was too far. And from everything I heard, there was an even harder version
Yeah. That they cut it.
that he did not release.
Right. Right.
That's the difference. And a man who has had male influence in his life, somebody he can trust,
right.
versus somebody who didn't.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Jay-Z was willing to go a place where Nas did not go.
Right. Right.
And we see this, you know, and we're still talking the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
So we haven't even gotten to the place where we are now, a whole generation of, you know, of people that just didn't have that. Here's another one. MC Lyte, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Her mother and father ran Top Priority, the record label.
Mm.
You ever seen MC Lyte in anything tight showing her butt off?
Nah, I personally haven't.
You ever heard her talking about giving fellatio?
Nope.
You ever seen her dance on a stripper pole?
Nah.
You ever seen her in a thong?
No.
Father.
Yeah. and it's crazy. I know I might skip ahead a little bit, but it's crazy because there are those that have father figures nowadays, and because society has changed things so much that they push the fathers away so they can do that other stuff.
Right. If you want to hypersexualize a young woman, you better get the daddy out the way.
You gotta get him a Lotto.
Now let's talk about Beyonce.
I'm glad.
But fast forward to Beyonce.
She was next. Yep.
Beyonce had a father,
Yeah.
and
Keyword had.
when he was managing things,
Right.
she didn't go quite. But even still, by today's standards, she's not Sexy Red by any means.
Oh hell no. Well, you know what? I'll say she has been, but in a different arena. Or the difference was because she made the Sexy Red song, but she made it about her husband.
Right, but that's,
You know what I mean? Like
that, and that's because you're talking about a woman that was raised in a family structure.
exactly right.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. And not
So-
to say that, because I don't know enough about Sexy Red. Like, we're not picking on Sexy Red. I don't know enough about it to know she grew up with her mother and father, but something went wrong, left there. Like,
Hey, I know a lot of dudes with daughters,
yeah.
and I know how daughters look at fathers. There's certain things they just don't want to do and have their father see.
Right. Right.
You know, if they're active in their life.
That's
And
crazy.
you can see that in Beyonce. She spent years in the industry not being sexualized.
Right.
It didn't stop her from going to the top.
No. Right. That
You know?
talent was there.
Right. I mean, you know,
Yeah.
she didn't have to go that route. And she didn't.
Yeah.
And so I guess the word to anybody coming up, it doesn't mean you have to have a father to find your way. You have to have, like, there needs to be a man, though, some kind of masculine influence, positive masculine influence in your life
Right.
to keep you from responding to things the way that women would and acting the way as a man, because we suffer consequences at a greater rate
Right.
than women do. So we have to be taught not to respond to things the way a woman would. For example, I've watched many women say whatever to another woman.
Right.
You ever seen a girl just pull out a gun and shoot a girl for what she said? Not really, just Remy Ma. But in general,
The brat.
women don't do that. They're not going to end up facing the same consequences
Right.
for what they say out of emotions and anger.
And it's funny that you say that because I'm going to backtrack a little bit, but it's something that we discussed off air. And that woman influence of saying whatever you want to say without repercussions, and the respect. The line I'm gonna say is gonna show both sides. The respect for the man and being saying whatever you want to say, because the legend, the notorious B.I.G. said, "You look so good.
You look so good. I suck on your daddies." Like this is obviously coming from a man that didn't have anybody to tell him, you can't say that. Well, you can say that, but you know, there's some things that even if you're just saying it for shock value, there's certain things that, you know, you had the right influence in your life, you're not even gonna go there.
Yeah, but do you
see what I'm saying?
On the other side of that, do you think that was showing respect to the man? Like, almost like, and I was thinking about it, like, was he saying that
it was an over-the-top way of giving her a compliment?
Yeah, like, I'll do whatever it takes. Because, you know, like back in the day, you had to get the father's permission to take his daughter. Like, I'm willing to do whatever.
Right.
Yeah,
but that's you know, that's a whole lot of shock value. But like I said, this is when you start seeing signs of dudes without dads.
Yeah,
like DMX. All your mans has been to jail before. Suck my woo. Like, hey man, what you talking about right now?
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Like, this is a dude admitting on wax that he would let another man perform fellatio on him.
It was drugs, man.
That was prison, man. That's what that was. You see what I mean? But you get the right father figure in your life. Not only, it's not like he's gonna be in your ear saying, "Don't say that." You'll be thinking to yourself, "I have so much respect for the person that raised me."
Yeah,
that I wouldn't say that because it's gonna somehow reflect on somebody I respect.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's what the war on drugs did. Took a lot of the respect. Like when you watch fathers turning to crackheads, you lose, like, anybody's gonna kind of lose a little bit of respect for that person when you watch them go out here and do anything for a drug,
right,
when they're not doing for you like they should.
Absolutely.
And then as women became the head of households, you watch them disrespect these dudes because of how much they have to do.
Right.
So it's hard for that anybody coming out of that environment to even see somebody and respect whatever input they have to offer.
You know, today I had a moment where I was sitting at the traffic light and I was thinking about this topic. And it was something that I saw at the light, which made me think about it. There was a gentleman there with his sign, blah, 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 please help, money, Jesus, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. But that was in his left hand. And guess what he was holding in his right hand?
A beer, a cigarette, a blunt?
His daughter's hand. She looked like she was about 6, 7 years old. So I was like, how long is it gonna take before she realizes that her able-bodied dad is standing on this corner begging for money with her as the sympathy?
He's using her.
Yeah, to me it was like he was pimping her out.
Yeah,
9:30 this morning.
He's like, nobody's giving me anything, but if you with me.
Yeah. It's 9:30 in the morning, bro. Like, all these help wanted signs out here. Like, let her sit in the car while you go to work part time. I would feel better for that than what I saw this morning. This little girl was out there fucking freezing. And and I was like, I don't know. It just made me think about this, you know, like the demasculization of men in general, because, you know, they would make you think that it's just happening in our community.
But that's the new part of taking fathers out. It's because after that crack era kind of is, it's not, the drug era is not all the way over, but the crack epidemic is not what it used to be.
Right.
Fathers have come home from jail and they're out there smoking crack like that. And you go look around now, fathers are involved again. But we haven't seen the product of that in hip hop yet.
Right.
Because those kids are still coming of age. They'll be there eventually.
Right.
But they're not going to be as masculine as the version of kids with two parents that we saw back in the 70s, 80s.
Right.
Because masculinity isn't what it used to be. So, like, in general, there's some things that today's kids, like, like I said, today it's not a problem of our fathers around. Yes. Today, fathers are back. Matter of fact, give it up for the dads. I mean, they're back.
Right.
Like, and I'm glad to see it. Like, the fathers are everywhere now, and they're doing a great job. But now they're fighting against years of being devalued.
Right.
So now the fathers are back, but it's been years since they've been appreciated. And the input, like, what is toxic masculinity? And I do understand, bullying and all of that stuff. Of course, we don't need all that, but now almost everything related to the good old fashioned advice is considered toxic masculinity now.
Right.
And that's, it's because you don't have drugs taking them out at the same rate, and jail taking them out at the same rate. Now it's
the machine.
The machine is saying that masculinity is bad.
Right.
But it's not. It's needed. There's a balance. And I'm not saying
ecosystem.
That. Right. And I'm not saying that women's, like, we'd be in just as much trouble if the same thing happened and we lost all the women.
Absolutely.
Because all the input that they give, we lost the nurturing, the caring about certain things. Like, you need that strong disciplinary figure in the household, but sometimes it can be too much. You need a woman,
right,
to say when enough is enough.
Absolutely.
And so there's a balance, and we gotta be together in this thing. So I'm not saying by any means that the world would be better off if it was fathers put in this position that the mothers have been put in for so long. Nope, we'd be in the same situation. It'd just be different ills that we'd be dealing with.
Right.
Like,
you wouldn't feel comfortable wearing your pink shirt if
there were no mothers. Let's put the shoe on the other foot for a second.
Yeah.
If all the mothers, like, if the same amount of mothers went to jail and got strung out on crack as fathers did, and we lost that percentage of the household, what would be different? Well, for one, like you said, there would be no pink in the game.
Right. It'll be less people too.
Yeah. You're right. You're right. There would be less people.
Yeah.
There would be less people. But you know something else? I think that would change the perceived value of a woman.
Absolutely.
They would become rare.
On that pedestal.
You would treat them better.
Right.
You would appreciate their input more. It would be harder to find one.
Damn. Right.
But it also depends on how did they go out. Now, did they go out, did they turn sorry? Because that could also turn into not being treated as well because of the way that you lost them. Did they all turn to crackheads and go to jail?
Right.
Well, then now you go through 20 years of disrespecting them.
Right.
So, but the what I'm seeing right now is in the game, I see a lot of, it just feels like nobody's raising these people properly. And teaching them the proper way to handle conflict,
Right.
emotions.
But you know what, Jay? Just thinking about it, I think that in a lot of ways, because of the women having to step up and take the role of being both parents and working harder than the traditional woman, some aspects of that woman are gone. You know what I mean?
Right, it's a different kind of woman on the other side of this too.
Right. You know?
And it leaves kids with too much unsupervised time.
Mm-hmm.
If you have both parents in the house, let's say both of them are still working hard.
Mm-hmm.
One, you have double the income coming in,
Mm-hmm.
which means you have double the resources.
Right.
Two, there's more of a likelihood of somebody being able to supervise while the other one is working.
Mm-hmm.
You remove one of them, mother goes to work. Well, the kids are on their own till she gets done.
Right. Right.
And, you know, a lot of these kids are raising themselves.
Mm.
And, you know, without that proper respect for authority
Right.
that you learn from a man.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not going to learn it from a woman who's had to take on the responsibility of both roles. Mm-hmm. She's not going to respect nothing the man got to say either.
Right. Right.
What you had to say meant so much. Where were you when I was putting this food on this table and putting clothes on these kids' back?
Right.
I don't have nothing you got to say.
Yeah, no, you can't see.
And the most important person in that life
right
has just taught you that what a man has to say means nothing here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So man or woman, you go out and you're like, man, I don't care nothing about what you're talking about.
Right.
But like I say, I see a reversal coming, but it just hasn't come to full fruition yet because all those kids haven't come of age. Mm-hmm. But kids right now, these 10-year-olds, teenagers, they're coming up. I think they've come up with a much better situation today. And if everything goes the way it should, over the next 10 years, we should see a change in the game.
I don't know if it's going to be the change that you thinking though.
We should. I mean, just give it time. Give it time.
There's a lot of sociopaths walking around here.
Yeah, there are. There are. That goes, but that's on the whole mental health side right there. But give it time. Give it time. We will see the fruits of this new family structure start to bear in the game.
Yeah,
those kids will be out there eventually.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because this is unsustainable.
Mm-hmm.
That's why you can't fill an arena full of people who like talking about guns and all that stuff, because that's not the whole of our existence. So that's why you can't fill an arena for that kind of music. Mm-hmm. It doesn't appeal to a broad enough audience. So we're already seeing that.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of time, you know, especially since this is the product of capitalism. Mm-hmm. This is not financially viable to last much longer.
Right.
A new direction is coming.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to appeal to these kids. They're a little bit softer. Mm-hmm. You know, no matter how hard the music sounds, the majority of them, they'll listen to that, but they're not living that life.
Right.
These people are still glorifying the era that we started talking about in the beginning.
Absolutely.
But that's not where we are as a society right now. So it's just a matter of time. You guys keep your head up, have faith. Yeah. This thing is about to turn around. Right. You know, when you go anywhere and you hear young adults who aren't all in the streets, when they listen to throwbacks, they listen to Lauryn Hill. Mm-hmm. Right. Give it time.
Right. Change is coming.
Change is coming, man.
Yeah.
Change is coming. Fathers are back and they're raising their kids.
Yes.
It's just a matter of time before we see those kids out here making the music.
Mm-hmm. I think that'll be a dope place for us to be too. Mm-hmm. It's going to change the whole scope of things.
Like I said, that's why they can't fill a stadium.
Yeah.
For people, like, think about what Sexy. A lot of we just using Sexy Red as an example. Where them drug dealers at? I want somebody who sell drugs and buy Hellcats.
Right.
That's a small.
She said that.
Yeah, that's something to that effect. She had said those words exactly.
Yeah.
You know, and that's a very, very, very small percentage of the population. Mm-hmm. But I also know that when you get those people in a room together, they don't always get along.
Oh no.
So even going to those types of shows is just eventually it's just going to turn to the kind of place where it's going to be such a small percentage of the population in there willing to risk their lives.
Right.
To be around it, it's just not going to be financially viable.
Right.
If you can't fill a stadium, it's on to the next thing.
Right.
The music is about to change.
A couple of those top artists found that out this year the hard way.
Yeah, it's about to change, man.
Right.
It's about to change. Because hip-hop is now, being 50 years old, it's enjoyed by the parents and the kids.
Absolutely.
And back in the day, you could go see a Michael Jackson concert, father, daughter, grandmother might even go. Mm-hmm. Hip-hop is going to have to reach that place for the powers that be to keep investing in it.
Right. Right.
So it'll get there. That's why the Force tour was so popular. Mm-hmm. I sat there and watched that whole concert. It didn't feel dirty and filthy.
Right. Damn. A lot of this, we talk about the fathers being taken out, but the Almighty Father has been taken out too.
Hey, that's another father figure that's gone.
Yeah, like
people gotten real comfortable disrespecting the name of the Lord.
Right, man.
And you see that too in the result that's having. Like, I know a lot of people didn't agree with, like, prayer in school, for example, and all this stuff.
I was gonna say they attacked that in the war during the same time as the war on drugs, basically.
Right, and while everybody may not have believed, it gives you a father figure.
Mm-hmm. When
you don't have one.
Right. Right.
There's always the idea that you're always accountable to someone or something.
Right.
And that idea is being tossed out the window.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, but I hope things, I hope on that level, I hope we get away from that too and get back to some accountability on the whole. Because like I said, the fathers are back in effect, but we haven't had a chance to see those kids participate in the game. The flip side of that is, what father who's raising his kids will even steer them into hip hop now? Like, I'm a father, I got 2 boys,
right,
and they're my kids. They can do a lot of what I can do. I taught them how to play basketball.
Right. Instead of,
I didn't give them turntables.
Right.
And part of that reason is that, hey man, I was out there during that era. Once a year for about 10 years straight, after seeing somebody die at some venue that I was DJing at every year for a 10-year stretch.
Right.
I didn't feel like if I had kids, that's what I would get them into. Mm-hmm. It didn't feel like a safe space.
Right. And some of the biggest rappers, they don't want their kids involved in that mess.
Right. Right. They send them to private schools.
Right.
Like, if you really want to know what your favorite artist thinks about everything he's doing, look at what he's doing with his kids.
Right. Right.
How many rappers' kids are doing this? You got basketball players' kids popping up in the NBA all the time. Mm-hmm. Football players' kids get their kids involved in football. How many rappers get their kids involved in this?
And the ones that do,
the ones that do don't even get along with their kids no more.
That's what I was gonna say. Yeah, like look at T.I. his kid, man.
Look at Master P, his kid.
Yeah.
Look at Benzino and his daughter.
Right.
Coi Leray, Lil Romeo.
Right.
They don't get along with their parents.
Yep.
Because the direction that the game is going, like for them to be involved, nobody else is being respectful towards any adult figures.
Right.
And they're not following instructions or being given any type of direction. So how do you? They can't accept it.
Like they gave Jeezy flack because he sent his son to college.
Flack for sending your son to college? Where they do that at?
Because all of his music glorifies drug dealing and making street money. But it's okay. You're doing right by your kid, but what about the other kids who are listening to your music? That's why they gave him flack. They gave Cardi B flack for turning off WAP, that song with her and old girl, when her kid came in. She twerking on IG Live. Her kid
and she's
come
like,
in.
None of that. But
Right.
you know what that says? That also says that I want every parent to listen to me right now. These entertainers are well aware that what they do is adult entertainment.
Man.
End of story.
Man. I can't say that.
They are aware that what they do is adult entertainment and it's not for kids.
Should be. And you know why I say should be? Because the adults are not spending the money consuming this music. And that's not rocket science. You know what I'm saying? This is statistics. Like, this is proven that adults don't spend money on music. The kids are.
It goes all the way back to the dude with no father in his life when a motherly figure came along and said, this is not good for kids.
Right.
C. Dolores Tucker, black woman, in politics, said this music is not good for kids to be listening to.
Right.
What did Tupac do? He called her a bitch.
Absolutely.
Do you think, like, it goes back to what I said, a man with a wise father figure in his life, have you, anybody listening to this right now, would your dad let you call a grown woman
The B word.
a bitch and let that stay on a record? No, it wasn't. He didn't call her a bitch. He called her a mother uffer. See, Dolores, you a mother uffer.
Ooh.
You see what I'm saying?
Ooh.
Why? Because she, and like you know, in the grand scheme of things, because she said that what you're saying is not good for the community,
Right.
and the message that you're sending out.
Right.
And right now, if Tupac had lived, you know what he would be? He would be a father.
Absolutely.
And he would be in this age range right here. You know what he would probably say?
I made a mistake.
Right. She was
Unless
right.
he Jim Jones.
She was right. And like Dionne Warwick told Snoop. Dionne Warwick told Snoop about using the B word.
And he toned it down.
He toned it down briefly.
Yeah. right.
But,
Yeah.
you know, and I don't know what Snoop's total home situation was, but Snoop also came up in the era where if you didn't have it at home, he had OGs. And he is the product of the OG environment before. He'd been around long enough where he had OGs around
Absolutely.
to teach him what to do and what not to do. He knew better than to walk in and disrespect Dionne Warwick. Because he had OGs.
Right. And he raising his kids different.
You see it. You see it, man.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So, yeah, it means a lot to have a father. Like, you think that all this stuff be going on in Jacksonville if they had respected fathers around or OGs in the hood to tone this down? No.
I forgot the young boy name.
Fulio and Young and Ace.
Yeah, but
going at each other.
It's another one that killed somebody and his dad told on him.
Like, man, you don't get to kill somebody and come hide in my house. But then at the same time though, there was another one that took his daddy on the hit with him.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. His dad ended up
but his
snitching on him.
dad was right there with him. They went to shoot this dude together.
Nah, what about you with the young boy in California where his dad sent him to go rob your boy? He ended up killing him.
Yeah, well, every now and then you have some bad guidance every now and then.
Absolutely.
You know, having a father figure is not the end all be all if the father figure is just as out there and wild as the younger one.
Yeah.
And that happens sometimes.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of that.
I'm gonna smoke this crack, but don't you smoke now. Then I do what I do.
Nah, either that or I'm gonna smoke this crack. Want some? You see what I'm saying?
Don't tell your mom I gave you this.
Right.
Crazy.
But yeah, man, like, you know, and I've seen a little bit of both sides. You know, I had a period of time my dad was there. I had a period of time when he wasn't. Mm-hmm. And I know that as much as I love and respect my mother, it just meant a little bit of something different when I knew I was going to have to answer to my dad for something.
I didn't have a dad. I had an older brother. And I think I was more afraid of letting my older brother know I smoked cigarettes than I was my mama. And he told me, I should beat you right now for smoking. I'd rather you smoke weed than cigarettes. And here I go 30 years later and still can't quit these.
Hey, but that's somebody, you know, somebody you look up to.
Absolutely.
Whose opinion you trust.
Absolutely.
And so here's what I'm offering. We will be your father figure right here on this show. Pay attention to what we're telling you. We're not trying to steer you wrong.
Right.
I'm not going to tell you anything that's going to get you in trouble. Mm-hmm. Not going to tell you anything that is going to send you on the wrong path. You know, and we are not perfect over here.
Right.
But if you don't have any direction in your life,
right,
even if it's not us, there are plenty of other people in the game, out of the game, mm-hmm. who have done things in their youth. But when you're young, you can't hear them. You can't hear them when they say, this is not the way to go. Pay attention to those people because they've already been where you are.
Right.
So they're not just saying it because they don't want you to enjoy life. Mm-hmm. And some of this stuff is fun till the consequences come.
Right.
What they're telling you is that life is way longer than the 2 or 3 years that you from 20 to 23 or 17 to 20.
Absolutely.
And what you do then will affect your quality of life when you're 40, 50, 35 even.
Absolutely.
So
you're old a lot longer than you're young.
Right. If all goes well.
If all goes well.
Yep. Yeah. Fast living is so fun. It's so fun. I know it is. I know it is.
Right.
I know it is. Yeah. It's fun.
Absolutely. For real.
But I tell you what, nobody who is suffering the consequences of fast living in their 40s would say, I would rather have those 2-3 years of fun than be in a proper place to provide for my family now.
Right.
They will all trade that to be in a better position now. So
next time you at McDonald's and you see that guy in there working with that gray beard and gray hair, ask him.
He'll tell you.
Ask him. Ask him. And that's not a shot at the guy working at McDonald's. It's just, you know what I'm saying? Ask him.
But if he had gotten a start, if he had started doing that when he was in his 20s, he would own that McDonald's.
Right. Yeah. Or the lady. Ask him. You know?
Right.
So, but yeah, if you need some guidance, send us an email.
Yeah. Yeah, we'd be glad to mentor. We'd be glad to mentor anybody.
Absolutely.
And I hope that these words are far reaching. You know what I mean? Yes, the game is where it is because we spent 20 years disrespecting fathers, taking them out of the house, locking them up. Even the streets, as bad as you thought it was for gangbangers to be out there on the streets, you didn't realize that once you took the 25-year-old gangbanger off the street, you leave 16-year-old gangbangers to figure it out on their own.
Absolutely. Yep.
Leadership is so important. So fathers, step up, keep on doing this job that you're doing, and you will see the change. You will see the fruits of your labor in a few years as these kids become young adults.
No matter what they say, I'm not talking about the kids, but no matter what society says or that woman says to you about being a part of your kids' lives, man, do it.
Do it.
Yeah.
Do it. It's important, man.
Absolutely.
It's important. You know, like that, back to what I was saying about having spent some time with a father around, having spent the time without. Yeah, it took me a while to unlearn some things. You know?
Yeah.
As I became an adult, I luckily had some friends around who did have fathers, and I noticed they didn't do things the way I did.
Right.
You know? Something happened, I'd be like, man, I'm ready to tear this thing. You ain't ready to tear this thing up.
Yeah.
They're like, man, what you doing, man? Calm down.
Right.
It ain't even that serious.
Right.
And what's wrong with them?
Yeah.
But fathers.
It's a strong word, man.
Yep, real strong. But that's it. Are we done?
I think that's it, man.
I think that's it too, man. Yo, this is the Capital City Podcast. We'll be your daddy. I'm your host, Capital J. Alongside my main man,
DL Glass.
and we are fathers.